Visitors to Historic Richmond Town come to this village and museum on Staten Island to get a feel for what life was like in early America.
Each house has its own story. Some of them are on their original site. They were built here in the center of Staten Island, which is the nucleus of Historic Richmond Town. And some of them were brought in from outlying areas just as a way to preserve them.
Groups can go from building to building, starting with a building that's from the 1690s and working up to the general store, which is interpreted at 1890. So we cover 300 years of history.
I think that history can be confusing and overwhelming if it's nothing more than a parade of dates and factoids with nothing real to hitch it to. And that's what we try to do. We engage students while they're here in figuring it out for themselves. It's in front of them, and we ask them to take it in, think about it, and draw a conclusion.
I sometimes lead tours around the village. I sometimes work in our library, and we do many, many workshops with school children.
Teachers bring their students here, first of all, because you can see what life was like in the old days, get inside the old buildings, and you really get a sensory wash of life in the old days. Life in colonial times, life in the early republic, the industrial age.
One of the workshops that we do here at Historic Richmond Town is the lighting workshop, where children learn about different methods of lighting in the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries. And one thing that they do as a hands-on activity is make candles.
There's another one called Charlie Gets His Cloak, based on a book by Tommy DiPaolo that shows how you go from a bunch of sheep to a finished cloak. So we show them the process of turning flax fiber into linen thread, a little bit about weaving, and then the same thing for wool, from the fiber to the finished product.
Today's activity was by cooking and getting a tour on Historic Richmond Town.
We're in an 1820s kitchen, which is the new part of this colonial farmhouse built in the 1740s. And I think what we're trying for the children to experience is both the past and the present of this activity. Everybody cooks, everybody eats, but how did they do it in the old days, and what made it easier or harder back then and today?
They didn't have like stoves so they can cook it. They had to boil water over the fire.
And of course, best of all, they get to make something and then eat it. When they come to Historic Richmond Town for any of these programs, they're literally walking into the past. They're not just reading it in a book or looking at a picture or even a TV show. They're really in here doing things, touching the things from the old days, walking through the building that's been here since the old days. And it's an immersion experience that you can't get from in a classroom.
A visit to Historic Richmond Town is an opportunity to experience the domestic, commercial, and civic activities that supported communities for more than 300 years.